You may have seen this infographic by now, but if you haven't, take a look. This is a really cool illustration of how many homes can be built with $50,000 worth of lumber. 10 homes just a year ago to now only 2 homes. We all know lumber prices have skyrocketed, but do we know why? Let's dig in. So everyone knows that lumber prices have skyrocketed. Maybe you didn't know it was 600% increase, but you knew it was a lot. It's been a thing for a while, but I recently finally started asking why. I started asking all my friends in and out of the business, lenders, realtors, builders, contractors, and then finally the internet, and guess what I found? A whole lot of, I don't know. Even the builders were like, dude, I don't know. So we dug in for ourselves, and here's what we found. It's actually really interesting and way more complex than you think. The lumber issue, oddly enough, started well before the pandemic. On April 24th, 2017, the administration raised tariffs on Canadian lumber. Yes, we have a lot of trees in America, but believe it or not, we do get lumber from other countries. The tariff was well over 20%. The increase obviously slowed the supply. Let's fast forward to the flashpoint though, the pandemic. Well, the pandemic led to an abrupt shutdown of sawmills in the United States and Canada. The lumber industry was slow to reopen, particularly in the Pacific Northwest and Canada. What is lesser known, however, is the fact that the forest product industry was already short capacity prior to the pandemic, and building product suppliers have become increasingly dependent on imports to meet demand. Europe, yes, we actually get wood from Europe, struggled with COVID and had difficulty administering vaccines. That obviously slowed production in Europe. The recent weakness of the dollar relative to the euro and the Canadian dollar is also contributing to the rise in prices. Yeah, I know, we're nerding out, hang in there. Import prices for wood have soared 80% over the past year. Well, duh. And add that to the already existing supply problem, and yeah, we have a huge issue. The cost increase to import wood obviously goes directly to the bottom line as well. So again, prices continue to increase again and again and again. Let's continue. As we all know, housing demand remained strong during the pandemic and even increased dramatically during the second half of 2020. The pandemic also created a demand for more useful living spaces to accommodate working from home and remote learning. This abrupt shift in demand fueled a surge in renovations and remodels. Yeah, so add that lumber demand to an insatiable housing demand, and yep, it furthers the issue even more. Sadly, sawmills have struggled to ramp up supply to meet strong demand. Like many industry, lumber producers temporarily slowed capacity last year, and while more capacity has come back online, many are still hampered by operating restrictions implemented to slow the spread of COVID. Producers are struggling to rehire workers, a problem that is becoming increasingly common across all industries. A shortage of truck drivers, holy smokes, this just keeps going, doesn't it? And higher diesel fuel prices are adding to the problem by making it less profitable for timber owners to ship logs to sawmills. Simply ramping up production at this point to pre-pandemic levels may not be enough. Many sawmills were closed in the aftermath of the housing bust back in 2008, and very few have opened up over the past decade. On top of that, the Pacific Northwest massive forests have endured devastating wildfires recently. Good Lord, it just keeps compounding. Dang. Canada, which has long been a major supplier of lumber to the United States, has its own issues, in part due to the ongoing beetle infestation. Oh my God, now we're talking about beetles. Over the past decade, the mountain pine beetle, of course, has destroyed an estimated 15 years of lumber supplies in British Columbia, Alberta, and the Pacific Northwest. Wow, now that's an insane path to higher lumber prices, but I'm glad we walked it together. A bit of good news going forward though. Production has increased, and recently Canadian lumber imports have picked up. The US reduced tariffs on Canadian lumber to 9% from 20%, which is good and should help, but completely removing the tariffs may be a better solution. So that's the crazy why behind lumber prices, tariffs, pandemic, remodels, imports, wildfires, beetles, truck drivers, and diesel. Who knew it was so complicated and all-encompassing? Share this with their teams, referral partners, and on social. It's an interesting, winding road to get to the why, but I think they'll find it interesting. We'll see you guys next week.